Hare Krishna. We will continue our discussions. So today we'll see whatever we can complete, and after that, rest will be homework. This is a very important section. We were discussing how the mentality to understand that without me nothing works. This is what is Ardhaman is trying to help us overcome through this pastime. We were discussing this. So we'll see some of the purports and we'll further discuss. So I am Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Buddha Bhavanaha Kala Rupo Avatirno Asyam Abha Sura Vishan. The Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna, in the guise of all devolving time, Kalrupa has now descended to earth, eliminate the envious from the world. There are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Since the Supreme Lord is one and Father of all living beings, the envious living beings are also his sons, but they are known as Asuras. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father of God, Devatas, are demigods because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. Not only are the Asuras envious of the Lord in even denying the existence of Lord, but they are also enemies of all other living beings. The predominance of Asuras in this world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when he eliminates them from the world and establishes a rule of Devatas like the Pandavas. His designation of Kala is disguised as Kala in disguise is significant. He is not at all dangerous, but he is the transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For the devotees, his actual form is disclosed. And for the non-devotees, he appears like Kalrupa, which is causal form. This causal form of Lord is not at all pleasing to the Asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. This is actually very interesting point that is explained. This part of this world, Lord cannot be understood only. Because whatever we try to understand Lord, we try to understand things based on cause and effect. But the river that separates us from the material world spiritual is the causal ocean. The other part of the creation, spiritual world, is causeless. Here everything is cause and effect. That is why anything we are trying to understand, we see, oh, this is because of this, it is happening like this. Why this is happening, why this is happening. So we always have some logic to understand certain things. But with logic, you cannot understand Lord. With senses, we cannot understand Lord. With our unhappy mind, we cannot understand Lord. So all these things are actually blocking us to understand Supreme Lord. We cannot understand. That's why Lord himself has to reveal. What form of Lord that is understood here is Kala Rupa. We can understand time is working on all of us. That is very easy to understand because our body becomes older and older and older and invalid. And the things around us, our people around us, everything changes. That means the time is the underlying factor for everything. So that is very easy to understand. And then next thing is so these asuras, they are very much afraid of this Kala Rupa. Here asuras are many categories. Why they are afraid? Because it changes. They don't want change. That's why they ask for immortality. They say, no, we don't want to die. Nishpeditam deva krityam avashesham pratikshate tavadyuyam avakshevyam avedhyavad iheshvaraha. The Lord has already performed his duty to help the demigods and is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on the earth. Now Narmani is giving an instruction that okay, now time has come, you have to wind up. Even for pure devotees also, they are also winding up. That means this world is for wind up. It is not to stay. That is the point. This if somebody is preparing like that, he is very fortunate. Only the desire to enjoy is the cause of our attachment. Otherwise, nobody. If a person don't have desire to enjoy, for him he will not be attached. It becomes very easy. The fear is because attachment. The Lord descends from his abode, Kirshloka, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, in order to help the demigod administrators of this material world when they are greatly vexed by the asuras, who are envious not only of the Lord but also of his devotees. As referred to above, the conditioned living beings contact material association by their own choice, dictated by a strong desire to lord it over the resources of the material world and become imitation lords of all they survive. Everyone is trying to become an imitation god. There is a keen competition among such imitation gods, and such competitors are generally known as asuras. When there are too many asuras in this world, then it becomes a hell for those who are devotees of the Lord. Due to the growth of the asura, the mass of people were greatly divide devoted to the Lord by nature and pure devotee of the Lord, including the demigods in higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief, and the Lord either descends personally from his abode or deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen condition of human society or even animal society. This is the point. If there is problem in the society, what we should do? We have to pray. Even demigods are also doing. See, even higher, pray to the Lord for relief, that's all. No need to do anything separate, especially for devotees. No gymnastics. No, we need not do any internet campaign, sign petitions. That is okay, but for us more important than signing petitions is praying to the Lord. Such disruption takes place not only in human society but also among animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods and higher planets. Lord Sri Krishna descends personally to vanquish asuras like Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishpal, and during the region of Maharashtra, almost all the asuras were killed by the Lord. Now, he was awaiting the annihilation of his own dynasty called the Yaduvamsha, who appeared by his will in this world. He wanted to take them away before his own departure to his eternal abode. Narada, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation of Yadu dynasty, but indirectly gave a hint to king and his brothers to wait till the incident happened. The Lord departed. So this is also we have discussed. Now he is going to tell about Dhrashtra, what is going to happen to him. Dhritarashtra Sabhadara, Gandharijalsa Bharya, Dakshine Himavatya, Rishinam Ashramam Gataha. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidra, and his wife Gandhari has gone to the southern side of the Himalayan mountains, where they are shelters of the great sages. To pacify the mourning Maharaj, Narada first of all spoke from the philosophical point of view. Then he began to discuss the future movements of his uncle, which he could see by his foreseeing powers, and began to describe as follows. So they are given this ability to see the future. So that's how Narada is able to see. The place is called Saptashrota, divided by seven, because there are waters of the sacred Ganges were divided by seven branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the great sages. And then on the bank of Srota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and senses and free one completely from the thoughts of family affection. If somebody has so much family affection, they want to come out, this is the formula. If they're Ashtanga yogis. Or bhaktas, they need not drink 3 times water, they can take prasadam also in between. But this is very important. Coming out of it is always important. The yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and mind, and divert them from matter to spirit. The preliminary processes are the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body, and gradual situation in trance, facing the absolute person Paramatma. Such mechanical ways of rising to the spiritual platform prescribe some regulative principles of taking bath daily 3 times, fasting as far as possible, sitting and concentrating the mind on spiritual matters, and thus gradually becoming free from Vishaya or material objectives. Material existence means to be observed in material objective, which is simply illusory. House, country, family, society, children, property, and business are some of the material covering of the spirit, Atma, and the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusory thoughts and gradually turn towards absolute person, Paramatma. By material association and education, we learn simply to concentrate on flimsy things. But yoga is a process of forgetting them altogether. So the education which we get, it is only to concentrate on flimsy things. Modern so-called yogis and yoga system manifest some magical fish, and ignorant persons are attracted to such false things, or they accept the yoga system as a cheap healing process for disease of the gross body. But factually, the yoga system is a process. So nowadays, yoga to reduce the stomach, yoga for good health, yoga for that, yoga to enjoy all these yoga stuff. But factually, the yoga system is a process of learning to forget what we have acquired through the struggle for existence. The Dhritarashtra was all alone engaged in improving family affairs by raising the standard of living of his sons and by upsurging the property of the Pandavas for the sake of his own sons. These are common affairs for a man grossly materialistic and without knowledge of the spiritual force. He does not see how this can drag one from heaven to hell. By the grace of his brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened and could see his grossly illusory engagements, and by such engagements he was able to leave home for spiritual realization. Sri Nardev was just foretelling the way of his spiritual progress in a place which was sanctified by the flow of celestial Ganges. Drinking water only without solid food is also considered fasting. This is necessary for advancement of spiritual knowledge. A foolish man wants to be cheap yogi without observing the regulative principles. A man who can have no control over the tongue at first can hardly become a yogi. Yogi and bogi are two opposite terms. A bogi or the merry man who eats and drinks and cannot be a yogi, for a yogi is never allowed to eat and drink unrestrictedly. We may not with profit, we may not with profit how Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in a place with a spiritual atmosphere deeply absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord Hari, personality of God. So here the advantage of Vedic culture is they already are educated in this system from the beginning. So it becomes very easy for them to do such activities. Otherwise, nowadays it is not possible. Nowadays, even if you go to forest, also people cannot concentrate. They will remember their WhatsApp and Facebook, and they will think, "Oh, I have to upload," and they'll go to Himalayas and they'll put their status meditating in Himalayas, and they want to see how many people are liking it also. So this type of programming is happening nowadays. Very bad program. But then, Prabhupada's mercy, we can be at home and become devotees. We can be a greatest of yogis by being at home. And even sitting in front of your laptop and mobile also, we can be greatest of yogis. If that is only utilized for hearing Krishna Katha, hearing Kirtan, if it is used for only these two things, or speaking about Krishna, then we can, with in spite of all these modern gadgets which are completely mode of ignorance and passion, still we can have absorption in Krishna. That is the advantage. That is the Bhakti Yoga is such a powerful thing. Because for us to live without mobile, laptop or TV screen is like very difficult. So Lord said, okay, no problem. Utilize chant Hare Krishna, hear Krishna Gita, like that. Prabhupada, one who has controlled the sitting postures, the yoga asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses towards the absolute personality of God and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. The preliminary activities of the way of yoga are asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was to attain success in those preliminary actions because he was seated in a sanctified place and was concentrating upon one objective, namely the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari. Thus, all his senses were being engaged in the service of the Lord. This process directly helps the devotee to get freedom from the contamination of three modes of material nature. Even the highest mode, the material mode of goodness, is also a cause of material bondage, and what to speak of other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. Passion and ignorance increase the material propensity of hankering for material enjoyment and a strong sense of lust provokes the accumulation of wealth and power. One who has conquered these two base mentalities and have raised himself to the platform of goodness, which is full of knowledge and morality, cannot also control the senses, namely eyes, the tongue, the nose, the ears, and the touch. But one who has surrendered himself unto the lotus feet of Lord Hari, as above mentioned, can transcend all influences of modes of material nature and be fixed in the service of the Lord. The Bhakti Yoga process therefore directly applies the senses to the loving service of the Lord. This prohibits the performer from engaging in material activities. This process of tuning the senses from material attachment to the loving transcendental service of the Lord is called pratyahara, and the very process is called pranayama. Ultimately, during ending in samadhi or absorption in pleasing the Supreme Lord Hari by all means. So I'm not giving much commentary because this is all things you know very much. I'm just trying to uh, read whatever. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence and then merge into the supreme being with knowledge and of his qualitative oneness as a living entity. With the supreme Brahman being free from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. Bhagavatam also gives such descriptions because it is telling that this is not the highest. To tell sometimes they have to be explained because Dhritarashtra did not get the highest destination. That is the reason these things are very nicely detailed explained. Say he went like this. That's why he did not get the highest. It looks like very sophisticated and very glorious in one way. Oh, he's doing all these things. Very complicated process he's doing because people have this mentality. Anything complicated, they think that yes, this is something. Like one time, one person goes to Buddha, one boy. Uh, he says, actually, my father died, but this fellow is very sinful, and I am 100% sure he will go to hell. So, can you please help me that he does not go to hell? Then Buddha says, no, no, there is no way. He already did sin. So how can you expect that he will be liberated? He will go to hell only. He says, no, 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 you are a great sage, you are a great saintly person, you have power, you can do it, you can help my father to come out of it. And Buddha says, no, 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 it is not possible. But this boy was so much insisting. And then Buddha says, okay, then go to the market and purchase 2 pots. Then this boy feels very interesting. Yes, yes, something now it's happening. Because the more the complicated the procedure is, the people will think yes, something something very good is happening. This is the mentality people have. Oh, this is very nice that we need to have something complicated. Then the pot should be kept here. Like if the Brahmanas come and perform puja at home, na, you touch here, you put some grains here, and you cut it, nimbu and keep it here, and no, you put some water here, do this, do that, and so much complicated procedure. They feel yes, yes, this priest who came to our house is very good. He made such complicated procedures, and something good will happen to us. So this type of feeling people have. So this boy also thought yes, something now is talking business. He says, go to pot, purchase butter and put butter in one pot, and then you put stones in another pot. So this boy thought, wow, such a complicated something definitely good will happen. And then he says, go to the pond and then put both the pots in the pond, and you have to then break the pots and make sure that the butter will drown and the stones will float. Then the boy said, how is it possible? The stones will drown only and butter will float only. How can I make it opposite? Buddha says, no, 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 this you should do. Otherwise it won't work. Then the boy said, no, it is not possible like that. Then Buddha said the same thing. See, if somebody has performed sinful activity, he is going to drown only. He will go to hell. If somebody has done some good activities, he will be elevated. So the formula is simple. We cannot change. You have to, you are responsible for your activities. So what I am telling is here, the point is because Dhritarashtra is doing a very complicated thing does not mean it is highest. It looks like, oh, Bhishma, he just chanted Vishnu Sahasranama, looked at Krishna and left. It looks quite simple, Bhishma's departure. Whereas if you see Dhritarashtra's departure, it's a very complicated. You are seeing that So many things are there here. What is happening to amalgamating his pure identity with intelligence, merging into the supreme being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness and all these things. That's quite complicated. The living proper, the living being by desiring to lord it over material world and decline to cooperate with the supreme lord. Context the sum total of the material world, namely the Mahat Tattva, and from Mahat Tattva is false identity with the material world, intelligence, mind, and senses developed. This covers his pure spiritual identity. By the yoga process, which when his pure identity is realized in self-realization, one has to revert to the original position of amalgamating the five gross elements and the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, into Mahat Tattva again. Thus, getting free from the clutches of Mahatattva, he has to merge into the existence of the Super Soul. In other words, he has to realize that qualitatively he is non-different from the Super Soul, and thus he transcends the material sky by his own identical intelligence and thus become engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest perfection developed by spiritual identity, which was attained with Drashta by the grace of Vidra and the Lord. The Lord's mercy was bestowed upon him by his personal contact with Vidra, and he was actually practicing instructions of Vidra. The Lord helped him to attain the highest perfectional stage. So ultimately, it is done by Lord only. He has to make an endeavor, even for yogis, jnanis, and all. Anything that has to happen to them happens by the mercy of Lord. By seeing the endeavor of the living entity, Lord reciprocates. That's all. A pure devotee of Lord does not live on any planet of the material sky, nor does he feel any contact with material elements. His so-called material body does not exist, being surcharged with spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest, and thus he is permanently free from all contaminations of the sum total of Mahatata. He is always in the spiritual sky, which he attains by being transcendental to the sevenfold material coverings by the effect of his devotional service. The conditioned souls are within the covering, whereas the liberated souls are far beyond the covering. So now further the same continuation. He will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside, and will now we'll see Bhishma. No, it was quite simple for him. He just stopped all his thoughts, started thinking about the Lord, offered some prayers, and then life left. But here you see, suspended all actions of senses, even the outside, and will have to be improvised to interaction of the senses, which are influenced by the modes of mental nature. After renouncing all material duties, he must become immovably established beyond all sorts of hindrance in the path. Now, the Dhritarashtra, for him, now it was a big struggle because he lived a very bad life. So that's why he has to go through all this struggle. And Bhishma Dev also went, but he lived a very, his struggle was there, but he lived a very, very pure life. That's why it became very easy. In spite of external condition, is lying on a bed of arrows, but it was quite easy for him to look easy comparatively. Consciousness is very high. The Dhritarashtra attained by the yogic process stage of negation of all sorts of mental reaction. The effect of mental modes of nature draw the victim to indefectible desires to enjoy matter. But one can escape such false enjoyment by yogic process. Even every sense is always busy in searching for its food. We were discussed senses, they are always busy. And thus the conditioned soul is exalted from all sides and have no chance to become steady in any pursuit. Prabhupada writes such a wonderful statements. Prabhupada is telling every sense is always busy in searching for its food, and thus the conditioned soul is exalted from all sides and has no chance to become steady in any pursuit. Finish. Maharashtra was advised by Narada not to be disturbed by his uncle by attempting to bring him back home. He was now beyond the attraction of anything material. The material modes of nature, the gunas, have their different modes of activity, but above the material modes of nature is spiritual mode, which is absolute nirguna, which means without reactions. I told you it is beyond causal ocean. That means there is no cause and effect only. The spiritual mode and its effects are identical. Therefore, the spiritual quality is distinguished from its material counterpart by the word nirguna. After complete suspension of material modes of nature, one is admitted to the spiritual sphere and action detected by the spiritual modes is called devotional service or bhakti. Bhakti is therefore nirguna, attained by direct contact with the absolute. So we have 2-3 more verses. O king, he will quit his body most probably the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. Narada Muni's prophecy prohibited Yudhishthira Maharaj from going to the place where his uncle was staying because even after quitting the body by his own mystic power, Dhritarashtra would not be in need of any funeral ceremony. Narada indicated that his body by itself would burn to ashes. The perfection of yoga system is attained by such mystic powers. The yogi is able to quit his body by his own choice with the time and can attain any planet by desiring, by tuning the present body, turning the present body into ashes by self-made fire. It looks very exciting, no? Just you are meditating and body is getting burnt, finish, and you go to the next place. What a achievement! What a success! So quite. This should be the transcendentalist should always aspire for such type of end in the life, and we should be very. Of course, for devotees, we don't get fire and burn it, but we should feel that is actually called success to leave the body free from all attachments. That is what we all need. At the end of life, we should leave our body without any attachment for anything. Only for Krishna, only for holy name, only for hearing Bhagavatam. Can you imagine what a exciting thing just to think only. So, and then while outside observing her husband, who will burn in fire of mystic power along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. Prabhupada's writing. Gandhari was an ideal chaste lady, a life companion of her husband, and therefore when she saw her husband burning in the fire of mystic yoga along with his cottage of leaves, she despaired. She left home after losing her 100 sons, and in the forest she saw that her most beloved husband was also burning. Now she actually felt alone, and therefore she entered the fire of her husband and followed her husband to death. This entering of a chaste lady into the fire of her death husband is called sati right, and the action is considered to be the most perfect for a woman. In a later age, the sati right became an obnoxious crime affair because the ceremony was forced upon even an unwilling woman. In this following, it is not possible for any lady to follow sati right as chastely as it was done by Gandhari and others in the past. A chaste wife like Gandhari would feel the separation of her husband to be more burning than actual fire. Such a lady can observe the sati rite voluntarily, and there is no criminal force by any. When the rite became a formality only and force was applied on a lady to follow the principle, actually it became criminal, and therefore the ceremony was to be stopped by the state law. This prophecy of Narada Muni to Maharaj Yudhishthir forbade him to go to his widowed aunt. This is because the people who lived in that age, no, they were actually of a different category. So for them it was possible. Now the relationship are not so deep like what it was in previous ages. The relation between the personalities was so deep because the persons were also different, their minds and their bodies, everything was of a different category. Now Kali Yuga, everything is everything is plastic. So plastic smiles and plastic. The heart is also almost like. So it is not possible nowadays to do. And like this is what is very clear. When Prabhupada went, he initiated Matajis also into Brahmanas. And then when he came back to India, his godbrothers were criticizing. Are is initiating women also in Brahman Diksha, because in Vedic culture it is not there. If a woman marries a Brahmana, she is a Brahmani. That's all. She already reached the stage of a Brahmana. If she marries a Kshatriya, she is at the level of Kshatriya. A husband, whatever husband has, she need not have separate ceremony only performed. So his godbrother said, Krishna, why is giving Brahman Diksha to women? And Prabhupada said they don't understand anything. There are no women in the West only. What does it mean is that that type of mentality is not there now, because the programming that we all get, boy, girl, and everything, just only external body is there, but internal setup is same only for everybody. Kali Yuga setup. So we cannot expect much in Kali Yuga. boys are also of not that caliber, not so much responsible. Women also cannot have. So we cannot blame anyone. It is the system, the time, and the situation is like that presently. It is that time people were different. That's why they were able to do. Now we all have paraya nalpaisha sabya kalayvasni manda sumanda mateo manda bhagya. This type of things we have. So we should not take it very seriously. That by now it's not possible. And then so Gandhari very happy. This is also very. That's what I was telling. So Gandhari was able to serve Dhritarashtra because she had faith that she is that he's going to be successful, and he was successful also. And then because she followed him very faithfully, she also could attain the very great destination. Vidura being afflicted by the delight with delight and grief will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage. Vidura was astonished to see the marvelous departure of his brother Dharashtra as a liberated yogi, for in his past life he was much attached to materialism. Of course, it was only due to Vidura that his brother attained the desired goal of life. Vidura was therefore glad to learn about it, but he was sorry that he could not make his brother turn into a pure devotee. It was not done by Vidura because Dhritarashtra is being inimical to the Pandavas, who are all devotees of the Lord. An offense at the feet of Vaishnava is more dangerous than an offense at the lotus feet of the Lord. Vidura was certainly very liberal to bestow mercy upon his brother Dhritarashtra, whose past life was very materialistic. But ultimately, the result of such mercies certainly depends on the will of the Supreme Lord in the present life. Therefore, Dhritarashtra attained liberation only, and after many such liberated states of life, one can attain to the stage of devotional service. Vidura was certainly very mortified by the death of his brother and sister-in-law, and the only remedy to mitigate such lamentation was to go to pilgrimage. Thus, Maharishtra had no chance to call back Vidura, his surviving uncle. So, this is another advantage in Vedic culture. People were happily going to holy places for pilgrimage. We should also learn any tragedy, anything happens in our life. We should also go to happily Vrindavan, Mayapur, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, chant, do samsara. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narada, along with his Veena, ascended into the space. Yudhishthir kept his instruction in his heart and was able to get rid of all lamentation. But see, Narji is an eternal spaceman, having been endowed with a spiritual body by the grace of the Lord. He can travel in the outer space of both the material and spiritual worlds without restrictions and approach any planet in unlimited space within no time. We have already discussed his previous life, son of a merchant. Because of his association with pure devotees, he was elevated to the position of an eternal spaceman and thus had free freedom of movement. One should therefore try to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni and not make a futile effort to reach other planets by mechanical means. Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pious king and therefore he could see Narada Muni occasionally. Anyone who desires to see Narada Muni must first be pious and follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni. This is in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 13th chapter entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. Any questions, comments till now? Yes, Kalpana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, pranams, Prabhuji.
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
the paragraph what Narad Muni can, he can ascend to any planets and that it was. So, Prabhuji, if we see, so what this research and what these scientists claim themselves, they have reached this planet, that planet, they have, that means actually they have not gone, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah, they send some space missions. They send some satellites, they send some missions to that planet to see what is there exactly.
But actually, it is not true. No, they might be seeing somewhere in some space, but actually, you cannot reach out to moon or other planets. What they have studied this, then on what basis they are putting that? They have done the research on these things.
What happens is they are getting some access to some things, but that is not exactly what it is in that place. They definitely have some access, they definitely have some things with their mechanical means, they're able to get some things. But the problem is now this is not gross. This is there is something on a more settler platform, in a virtual in a settler level also. These are things exist. Like if you see Lanka, Lanka should be 100 yojanas away from India. 100 yojanas is 800 miles, but the Lanka which we see is very near only. It is not 800 miles. Now where is this Lanka then? That means it must be in a different realm. So this is uh, this is need to be understood. There is a settler aspects that are not we don't have access. We cannot see all the planetary systems that are explained. Why? Because only some are given access. We cannot see some of the lokas. We can see some lokas, some cannot be seen. So Kali Yuga, na, it's settle things people cannot understand. But if you want to know what is in moon, who are there, you sit and meditate for long time, and proper meditation you do, you can get the access of moon planet. And if somebody is willing to go, then he performs certain more pious credits, then he can go to there also. So this is the way. Now, because people see very gross, they cannot see the settler things. We don't have access for very settled things. Everything is very well. And this is actually this technology and all. Na, this is from lower planet systems. This is not higher planetary systems. So it is much more difficult for us to understand things which are very subtle. That's why Prabhupada, he gives simple logic. Monday, uh, first comes Sunday, then comes Monday. That means sun is nearer than Prabhupada logic is like. So before going to sun, how can you reach me? That's what Prabhupada says. So they could not reach. But they claim that they have went and they got some stones from there. But how it will help? Anyone does not. So it is not possible to go to that places.
Yes, Prabhuji, because that's what I was wondering. Either to yogic power, as you said, they can meditate on that, and they get that access through some yogic siddhis. And what the other aspect, what Prabhupada used to raise, ki if you want to go to the planet, it can happen only of the death, right? If you worship those demigods and to reach to that planet. So how these scientists are.
It's not, it is, yeah, it is. We have, because what happens, Mataji, like if I want to go to America, I need American visa. Similarly, if you want to go to moon, you need to have a body which is suitable for moon. You need to have a body which is suitable, and
Yes.
not only body. Body is actually what is our external body is the internal state of mind. That means I have to prepare myself a consciousness of a very sattvic person who are staying in the moon planet. Then I can get a body of a person who can stay there, and then I will be allowed to stay there, like that. So
Yeah.
without that subtle body, without that mindset, our position in this material world is decided by our state of consciousness. If our state of consciousness is sattvic, then we can go to higher heavenly planets. If our state of mind is rajasic, then we'll stay continuously. So our position in this material world is decided based on what? Based on our based on uh, based on our material conscious state of our consciousness. So anybody, so Prabhupada gives a simple formula. Don't, with the same body you cannot go. You need to change the body's
Yeah,
consciousness.
that's what they have to acquire. That's the whole theory goes false, Prabhuji, right? Because with this present body, how can they perceive those subtle beings there? There, here we require oxygen. There is some other element which is required. I mean, everything seems unreal. Why I'm telling this point, Prabhuji? Because one of the here in Sharjah, and one of the doctors, they have claimed there is a group of people who are giving land in moon, and they own that, and they have they are in that YouTube channel also. Okay, they are the people who have owning some land in moon. I said whole scenario seems so unreal.
Yeah, there are people who are nicely cheating and people who want to get cheated. And so it is all, they may say it is moon, but it is not moon. That is for sure. Because that is not possible only to go to moon with the present body and present state of consciousness. You have to change your state of consciousness. Like Arjuna went with the same body. But why he could go? Because his state of mind is that's why he could go. Not that you cannot go with the present body. You can go with present body also, but your mind consciousness should be that much elevated. Otherwise, they will not let you inside like that. So anyway, people they will not accept it, and they will get nicely cheated. They want to get cheated. There's so much land available on earth. We have big countries like Canada and Russia. There's so much empty spaces there. Not only that, even India with so much population, when you go in the trains, and you will find so much empty places and empty. Why you need to go to moon to purchase something? You can purchase on earth also.
Prabhuji. Now I realize I heard these stories before, so many years before. Now I could realize that so much people have been cheated. Really true. Thank you, Prabhuji.
They want to get cheated. They have money, they don't know what to do with the money, and that's why they go to these people to get cheated. I say, okay. So I was seeing how different ways of way people trying to enjoy and trying to get cheated. There are thousand different ways. So we will just read few shlokas from, or we'll end here for today. I will give a little break. We'll start new chapter from Monday. Some lessons from this chapter I'll take, and then remaining thing will be homework because Prabhuji will complete. And this is small chapter, but interesting lessons are there. We'll see what we can learn from this chapter next week, Monday. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Mataji, some question? Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, you said long back you will speak something about mantra siddhis and all.
Oh, okay. I will try. We'll see in this chapter if we get time. I am just always in hurry because I had to catch up with Prabhuji, and because the purport sessions are the purports are very big, and it becomes very difficult. I will see, Mata. We'll see some places. We'll discuss on it. Definitely. I have many topics to discuss. Slowly, we'll try to cover all the topics. Every chapter, I'll try to cover two topics so that. And we'll try to at least two topics I'll take from each chapter so that we'll get some, apart from our regular discussion, I'll try to cover two chapters. Okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Kundicha margin also I'll try to share some points and share the notes. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Srimad